Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera. Kita akan meneruskan lagi program Sembang-Sembang Pswm dengan temanya menyusuri ilmu. Hari ini saya nak memperkenalkan seorang lagi tetamu saya. Namanya ialah Cik Shahnas Oli Mohamed. Siapakah Cik Shahnas? Saya bacakan dalam bahasa Inggeris. Shahnas obtained her Bachelor in Pharmacy Honours from Universiti Sains Malaysia in 1994, after which she completed her housemanship at the National Pharmaceutical Control Bureau, Ministry of Health. She then obtained her MBA from University of South Australia in 1998 and currently trying to work on her thesis to qualify for a doctorate from the University of Newcastle, Australia. Her other intellectual pursuits are through being a student of the Al-Kawthar Institute of Al-Maghrib Institutes, Islamic University of North America, and the RIHLA program under Sheikh Hamzah Yusuf. Now, how do I introduce her? She is a well-established entrepreneur with a diversified industry-specific experience in the Malaysian and international healthcare scene. Shahnas made the daring move to dive in on entrepreneurship on the 10th of February 2006, starting a healthcare company headquartered in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, to a company with international presence, multiplying company value 10 times within 10 years, with presence in MENA, Far East, Australia, and the USA. Now, how do I describe this young lady? She is a very outspoken person, well-informed, and very aggressively involved in business. Okay, my first question, Cik Shahnas. Why did you take up pharmacy in 1994? And did you ever work in the public sector as a pharmacist after you had your internship?
Assalamualaikum, Umi. Thank you very much for your very kind words. I think Allah made me more than I am in your eyes. Let me answer your question. Why did I take up pharmacy? Truth be told, it was by accident.
Why? Accident? What do you mean?
Accident, I went into matric. Okay, after Form 5, like any normal person. After Form 5, I went into matriculation. My almarhum, my dad was serving in Universiti Utara at that time. And being girls, I think the tendency was like cari university yang nearby, not so far. You know, you don't want to go so far away. It's your first time away from home anyway. So USM Matric Center was like in Perlis, which is like not even an hour's drive from our house in Alustar. That's the sekolah. And then USM is like 2 hours away in the opposite direction to Penang. Barely 2 hours. So definitely cannot go into Universiti Utara. That's not an option because my dad was there. Neither was UIPM or UM because my dad was there before. So by default, we ended up in USM, alhamdulillah. After matric, then the question arose lah. Okay, what course are you going to do for? Nak letak medicine, alamak, kena pergi kampus Cawangan Kubang Krian pula. I say, man, the move from KL to Alustar was bad enough. Alustar to Perlis, my God, where there's I make this joke all the time with one traffic light. And then, okay, Penang, some amount of civilization. Then you want me to go back again to Kelantan? Alamak, cannot lah. So, okay lah, tengok what's the next nearest to healthcare. And that was pharmacy. Okay, ambil. Of course, people would say, kenapa tak consider engineering? Engineering kena fizik. Shahnas tak pandai fizik.
Okay.
So, pharmacy it was lah.
And at that time, you had to go for compulsory service?
Yes.
3 years?
1 year. Our batch was 1 year
1
compulsory
year.
service.
Yeah.
So
And did you ever work in the public sector? No.
besides my internship, no.
No. Okay, after your internship and you became a qualified pharmacist, you straight away went into business.
No.
Or did you work with some other company?
I work with big pharma. I mean, my family background was basically like, okay, government. My dad actually my late father would have been very happy if I just became a lecturer in academic or work with government or something like that. Then while I was doing my internship, I had this headhunter come up to me, and she was very good lah. Of course, she said, "Look, you've got nothing to lose. You will gain. I mean, you can go to PJ Hilton and talk to the boss of one of the big pharmaceutical firms at that time. Have a nice cup of tea and high tea and all that, and come back. Like, you got nothing to lose. No strings attached. Just go give it a try." So I discussed, strangely enough, with my boss, who I at that time thought that I would just continue in Ministry of Health after housemanship. And he said, well, it's true lah, you got nothing to lose. And I told my dad at that time, my dad said, dah nak sangat pergi tengok, pergilah. So I went for tea with this man, and he turned out to be the nicest person. I mean, normally everybody thinks of big pharma as, you're like piranha kan, asyik nak make money. And this man was telling me, okay, I want you to do the right thing. You're coming in as a young Muslim girl. At that time, Malays did not go into industry. I was probably the first. I was the first and probably the only in my batch who went into big pharma.
Okay.
So after the interview, I came back and I was telling my father and also my boss at that time, but this man was so nice. Long story cut short. Okay lah, go give it a try at the end of housemanship. So I started off, and I think this is a very important point for the audience today. I started off with an agreement that I would start, although I was holding a very high, it was a job where the chair was bigger than I was as the company pharmacist and looking after Malaysia, Singapore and Brunei. But I made one side deal with my boss. Now, if I could not perform, then I would tender my resignation without any chaos. But he's giving me the chance of the lifetime to say, maybe you can perform. Come on, you're a pharmacist. Any pharmacist can do this job. So why don't you try? So I said, okay. And I went and tried it. And mashallah, it's been good. It's been good. I did well. At the end of the probationary 3 months, I got nice increment. He said, you've done well. And I've just continued from there.
How long were you in that company?
In the days we don't move around. So I was in that company. That company was known as Sandoz. They later went on to merge and become what is known as Novartis today. Okay. So that, I think, if I'm not wrong, that merge occurred somewhere in 96, 97 macam tu. So 3 years, about 2 to 3 years I was with that company until this merge. But in the meantime, when I was there, I was being headhunted for a lot of other positions, and because I was enjoying working with my boss, I didn't have a push factor. So I would go and listen and say, no lah. So when this happened, somebody actually went and told my boss that she's not budging, why so much loyalty and all that. Then he said, you better look around because you may want to move now. Because the loyalty point is not there kan. So then I started moving lah, but we don't move in 1 year and in 6 months and in 3 months like the current trend. We stay on for 3-4 years.
Okay. So, I also noticed in your resume that you had undergone many executive training at prestigious universities. Now, why did you undergo this training, and how did you enter these prestigious universities? If you allow me, all right. Some of these are the prestigious University of Cambridge, University of Oxford, United Kingdom, University of California, USA, Mission Bay, Berkeley campuses, as well as Stanford University. Now, those are very difficult universities, to enter, but you went for short courses, is it? Or what? Or diploma or what?
Not exactly. Not everything was a short course. Most of it was, I think, about 1 year program.
Okay.
So you have an immersion. Alhamdulillah, I think I got pretty lucky, and Allah sent opportunity my way. All of those were sponsored by government bodies. So and all of them came after I went into entrepreneurship. When I started entrepreneurship, then at that time, like say if you take the University of California, Berkeley and Mission Bay campuses too, we were starting the national biotechnology policy, and us being part of it, they selected the top 5 or 6 or 10 companies, and they said, okay, well, they went through a rigorous selection criteria, and then after you finish this, they send you for programs where you can only dream of going. For example, I attended the JP Morgan. This is like the meeting in pharma, and trust me, they don't want somebody looking like this in their system. So the JP Morgan healthcare show, where you pitch your company, you exchange ideas, how can you grow, how can you not grow, you forge partnerships. So that's for that. Like for the Stanford program was under Magic. I think it was under Ministry of Finance. Again, one of these immersion programs. So as an entrepreneur, kita pun kena self-develop. There's always that, because at the top it's lonely. You're always looked upon or probably even frowned upon as the boss. And yes, we have to be sometimes you have to make the tough decisions. It's part and parcel training for all that. When it came to University of Oxford, it was an immersion, I think SME Corp. So there was a huge selection process where you got to preach in front of the big guns in government and also in SME Corp, in Biotech Corp. Similarly, for Cambridge, it was directly under BT. We won an innovation award. So the winner dapat lah. So although when I was younger, my dad said, korang ni, you girls are girls. So please stay within the country, apa benda ni. So when I got a chance to go, I said, so daddy, now how? He said, now you can do whatever you want.
Now, before we go any further, all these courses, these executive courses and all that at these prestigious universities, that was when you already started your business.
Yes.
And what's the name of that? Is it this wellness?
Natural wellness. The core of our business is natural wellness.
Okay. What year was that? 2006?
Yeah, February 2006.
What made you leave that company and go into your own, what you call, this wellness, is it a pharmaceutical company?
Yes, it's a pharmaceutical company. Natural wellness is a pharmaceutical company.
At that point of time, how old were you?
I was 35.
It was a very big leap, it's a big break, you were very daring, and you had behind you had what, 10 years of experience working in that company?
More 10.
About 10 years.
I had changed 2 or 3 companies. My last point was doing national service in Tabung Haji lah.
Okay, but what made you establish this natural wellness? It's it's a big leap, I should say, from working with somebody for someone, an established company, and then suddenly you know it's not easy to go into pharmaceutical. You are very daring. What made you go into that? Who pushed you?
Actually, the truth be told, remember the first boss I told you about just now, Umi, who gave me that chance and said, you got nothing to lose, why don't you go and give it a try? Yes. I said I went for the interview. That gentleman is now my business partner.
Okay.
So when the merge occurred, he had to go back to where he came from because they're expatriates as MDs and CEOs. So he had to go back, and I also kind of like move on lah. I mean, now my options are open. I had like 2-3 years experience. You know the ropes in industry. You know who bullies you where. You know how to handle it and things like that. So I said, all right. I looked around. I moved. And in a matter of, I think the merge occurred somewhere in 97, 98 or around and about that. And if you notice, it's less than 10 years, you come a full circle. Dr. Yaakob, I mean, we've kept in touch. So in his new company, when he came, he used to come to Malaysia for incentive trips. He loves Malaysia. And he would always keep in touch. And on one of these times, he said, Shahnas, let's invest. I need to invest in Malaysia. I said, okay, fine. What do you want to buy? He said, we buy what we know. So he said, look around for me. So 1, 2, 3, we were looking around. This opportunity came up. I said, you want to come and take a look at it? He said, okay. He came, he looked at it, he liked it. At that time, we bought it over in a different form, but we've grown it from them lah. But it was already ada lah, benda tu dah wujud. They were doing trading mostly. And then he asked me, would you be my partner? And I didn't take a second thought. We told ourselves on this very day, I still remember this conversation, let's do our istikharah tonight. So we did our istikharah. We called each other the next morning and we said, okay lah, bismillah, let's go for it. So that's the story how I started a business. Very unconventional, but it's the truth.
But that is also besides your knowledge in because your big background is pharmaceutical. Besides that, you will be also involved in business, right? Can you share a little bit what natural wellness is all about?
Okay, natural wellness started off with the two of us. We are in healthcare. So what do? Research, development, formulation, marketing, basically the whole commercialization spectrum. We started focusing on natural products. Now we've gone into OTC and pharmaceuticals as well. The business itself, alhamdulillah, has grown. And out of that, when we started, we wanted to have a business with a purpose, with values. We didn't want to do what we had done or were forced to do when we were in Big Pharma. Yes, what they say about Big Pharma is partially true. So we said that if we do things right, then maybe life will also be easier for us. So we started out, alhamdulillah, as we grew, we created this little foundation to manage our zakah, basically our zakah, our sedekah, our majariyah, which is basically returning to society, what some other people call CSR. Then from there, the foundation we selected 4 areas: education, health, empowering of women, and also spreading the right word of Islam. Because when I went to the JP Morgan Shaw, when everybody looked at me in the tudung, they are like, what is this? What alien has landed here? This was in US, in San Francisco, in the middle of what they known as the Bay Area, which is known for biotech and healthcare. Then from there, we also run a social enterprise, a spa, Sama-Sama Spa, where we we look to create a social impact, where we have girls mainly from the B40 high-risk youth, train them up and they run the spa. So this is the whole spectrum of the business. Okay,
but I want to concentrate on the natural wellness, right?
Sure.
You were saying in your resume, I was reading, you talk about Sharia Compliance.
Right.
So can you please elaborate a little bit when it comes to pharmaceutical? Because in my experience, when I go to Mecca, and right in front of the Kaaba, there's a lot of pharmaceutical shops, right? Selling all sorts of medication. I always will go and try and find out from the pharmacist who's working there. I will ask him questions like this: excuse me, sir, may I know whether this is halal? Is it bovine? Is it things like that? And he said everything here is halal. Then I said, is it made in any of the Islamic countries? And he said, no, this is made in Germany. The German made medication kononnya is the best. So when you said just now, it's Sharia compliance, what do you actually mean in terms of the medication, for example?
Okay, when we look at Sharia compliance, we are looking at 2 main aspects. Satu, halal. The other one, toyiban.
Okay, toyiban I can understand.
Toyiban. Okay,
halal,
now when you look at halal, it's basically looking at our instructions in Islam, which says that no alcohol, no porcine, no blood, no carcass, and anything that can be deemed as tidak halal lah or haram. So, for example, I give you a very simple example. Very simple example is like the content of alcohol in cough mixtures, which is used as a preservative. Contohnya, the other example is also the use of gelatin as binder in tablets. This is very common.
Yes, very common.
So these are items that can be replaced. Of course, I must qualify the statement by saying that when something is a medicine, then you're allowed to take even that which is not halal or haram even. Okay?
Yeah.
So, but when you have an option, then you should take that option. So we said that why not we go for it and we stick to it. So that is as far as the product goes. Now, I would say this is the not so difficult part, because you can come out, your R&D can do it, you muck around with it, and then they will come up with a formula, you test the stability, test the result, you will get the result. The toy ban part is actually not that difficult also, because we have to comply to laws in healthcare known as good manufacturing practices.
Yes.
Malaysia is the signatory to the Pharmaceutical Inspection Convention Scheme, which is the big countries, Sweden, Europe, US, Japan, Australia, all these people are signatories to it. So you're already of international set. That by itself takes care of the toy ban part.
Okay.
But when you look at the business, you have to use money. You have to use financial instruments.
Yes.
Now, this is where the problem comes, because, and I can tell you, Umi, in all the courses that I've gone to, they always have a topic on finance. And it's never Islamic finance. If you don't mind,
conventional.
It's always conventional. It's always about hedging. It's always about how do you make your $1, $10, $100, $1,000.
Yes.
And I would like to just tell you a short story, a quick one. When I was in Judge Business School in the University of Cambridge, the guy who was teaching us this finance was a lord something, and he was knighted by the Queen. So not wanting to be rude, I went up to him before class and I said, "Sir, if you don't mind, I would like to sit at the back of the class during this one, because I would prefer not to be exposed to the conventional Islamic, financial thought, because this is not in my traditions." So he told me, "You don't have to worry. I'm used to students not paying attention to me in class. Please just sit down in front." So I sat down and I just continued. And he told us this story. Remember, that's the time, Umi, when the Lehman Brothers collapsed. The reason for that collapse was because the selling of risk, hedging lah, basically. So if I am Lehman Brothers, I have to take a risk, I sell to you. You cannot take you pass on right to the end, who is the smallest player. Okay? Now, when somebody makes a claim, like insurance, when somebody makes a claim, it collapsed. Now the risk has become so big, so large in size across the spectrum. So when one makes a claim, the whole system collapses. That is the concept of the Lehman and the Lehman Brothers in a nutshell. So he was telling us how this concept was developed by his student. And I still remember him saying that her name was Blythe Smith. So I being cheeky, finance classes are always very, routine drudgery. I said, "So sir, are you proud of her?" And he looked up at me and said, What? I said, "Yeah, are you proud of her?" Because imagine the entire financial system of the world at Wall Street has collapsed. And then he goes on, after a long class, he goes on, and you're talking about a person in Judge Business School, University of Cambridge, and he actually concludes with this. And he says that actually the Islamic financial system is the right way to go, because there is an element of fairness for both parties, or all parties involved. And at that time, soon after that, the British Islamic financial system started adopting the Islamic practices, although they did not call it Islamic finance. They would never do it anyway. So coming back to Umi punya story about halalan and toyiban, this is the more difficult part, because you talk about letter of credit. These are normal financial tools. You talk about bank guarantees. You talk about charging interest for late payments.
Yes.
So all this. So we started off and we said we don't want to do this. Alhamdulillah, until today we've remained a cash transaction company.
Wow. So in other words, these are some of the challenges that you, regardless of what product you are involved in, these are some of the challenges in the business world. Am I right or not?
Right.
This financing part of it. All right.
Yeah.
Now, I noticed in 1998, you obtained an MBA from University of South Australia. Now, my question is, does it help when you have an MBA to go into business?
I wouldn't say it will help when I went into business. Mind you, I went into business, Umi, almost 8 years later in 2006. The MBA, why I took it at that point, when I joined Big Pharma, I was only 24. Now, everyone sitting in a chair similar to my rank was at the very least 40
Okay.
or late 30s. So I was like being looked upon, this one who came and parachuted into this chair. She doesn't know head nor tail, you know, that kind of thing. She's too young and green. So to compensate for that loss of experience or lack of experience, I said, okay lah, tak apalah, susahkan diri, go and do your MBA. I mean, when you have a pharmacy degree, at that point an MBA becomes because pharmacy is like, oh my God, to study pharmacy is like a nightmare.
Yeah.
So that's why I actually took the MBA. And by the time you come taking in 1998 and then you start a business in 2006, it helps in the sense that you understand that your work is not limited to the job description that you were doing when you were working for someone, but everything, including garbage collection, a broken key or opening the door in the morning, all this becomes your problem, no matter how minute. So it helps you manage from HR to finance to marketing to sales to regulatory to general management, admin. Yes, it helps you. Yes.
Okay. My last question, because time is running, so I would like to ask you to give some advice to the younger generation who may be listening, you know, who may be watching the video that we have. After all, I developed this Sembang-Sembang PSWM Menyusuri Ilmu with two purposes. One is for those of, whoever is watching, who wants to go into tertiary education, trying to find what is the best discipline to go into. Number two, you are an entrepreneur, right? And it's not it's not like selling, I'm sorry if I sound very, but I just want to compare. It's not as simple or as what shall I say, upfront as selling garments, or tudung and things like that, because you are in the pharmaceutical, right? Now, what are some of your advice that you would like to give to the younger audience who are looking here, who may want to go into business?
Advice.
In terms of first in terms of knowledge, right? There is no because when I read your resume, you have attended so many training, besides your basic degree and masters, you keep on going for all this executive training that you mentioned just now. So in other words, if you're a business person, an entrepreneur, there is actually no stopping in terms of getting knowledge. Am I right or not?
Yep.
Give some comments on that and advice on the young people, because I notice nowadays young people, they just jump into the bandwagon. I want to be a business person, whereas you had the experience, and then later you sort of, you what shall I say? You plan it in such a manner, and now you are the CEO of Natural Wellness. Please.
I think there is a major difference between our generation, me, kita, and the current ones that are graduating. In our time, when we start something, it's like, genggam sampai bara. Orang kata genggam, kita kata genggam api sampai bara. It's like, go get it done, do it done properly. If we don't know, you go and seek out, you go and learn, you go and strive, and you achieve. The younger generation now is actually, what shall I say, maybe more individualistic or more privileged, because they have their parents. Kita sebagai parents always want to give their children something better than what they had. So in the cycle, this is just way I see it. In the cycle of doing that, there is also this idea of entitlement the children have developed. If I don't like my job, I can just walk out and just chow. I get my meal from my parents, I can get my allowance from my parents give me a car, silap bagi house, bagi mansion, bagi everything. So that perseverance too and the patience too is grossly lacking, number one. Number two, the go-getter attitude is not there. It's like, I also sit on some boards in the university, and we see this also sadly. I try this course, I tak suka, I tukar. I tak suka, I tukar, which during our time was unheard of.
Yes.
Start, like I said, pharmacy was not a choice. It was like ambil pharmacy kind of a thing. Yeah. So you just go through it and you make the best out of it. So I think that yes, you are privileged, tapi use that privilege, use that benefit, that perk, that starting above others that your parents have given you. Use it well. It can go very far. As for gaining knowledge, getting one degree from any university, I mean, I would always say this, while I have been privileged, Alhamdulillah, to go to some of the best universities in the world, tak kira lah lama tak lama, sekejap tak sekejap, but that exposure actually gives you new perspective to things. What I'm trying to say is that the pursuit of knowledge has to go on, because there's always room for improvement. There's always new things to learn. There's always a different way, a different perspective to do things. And I think that something that the current generation, probably maybe because they're privileged, they rasa that, okay, I've got all this, I've got my degree, I know it all. I can drive my Rolls Royce. Tapi it's just not like that, because it's not a one-way thing. It, you know, asteroids can come from any direction. You can turn, you can swerve. I mean, whoever thought of something like COVID will come up, and here we'd be working from home. My goodness, Umi, I've known you for so long. We walk into your house, for goodness sake. So, I mean, who would have thought? So, we are not prepared. So, like, for example, when COVID came, we are an essential service. I still got to keep going. We still got to serve. And the phrase, you stay home for us, we go to work for you, is actually a lot of meaning. Some businesses would say, you're so lucky you dapat jalan. No. We also go in fright. We also are in fear. Our costs are escalating. Our revenue is also not probably tak deep to zero, but there is a dip because retails are closed. So it's affected. So you need to understand that these are things that can happen, and it opens your mind how to learn. So the pursuit of knowledge and also the attitude towards things. I start something, I complete it, I do it well. That's it.
Okay.
So because a rolling stone is not going to gather any moss. You have to learn something somewhere, stay somewhere, learn, adapt, because even adapting and learning, you may have a worse boss. You may have Pharaoh as a boss, for instance, but even then there's something to learn. Yes.
Right. Well said and well summed up. That is typical of Shahnas that I know. Anyway, we have come to the end of our program, and I must say that it has been a very what shall I say, very enlightening session, because you're a pharmacist, you have got your own company, and you have had the privilege of going to all these prestigious universities to enhance your knowledge, so that you will be able to actually aim for greater things for natural wellness. Right? And I, on behalf of the Malaysian Women Graduate Association, Persatuan Siswaza Wanita Malaysia, of which you are also a member, I wish you all the best, and I really hope that you will be able to take on some young pharmacists in your under your wings, so that they can actually emulate you and make you their icon. Okay. Thank you so much, Shahnas.
Thank you, Vi. Bye.
Take care. Stay safe.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
You too. Take care. Stay safe.
Okay. Thank you. Itulah tadi tembual saya dengan Cik Shahnas yang begitu bersemangat. Inilah dia ciri-ciri seorang usahawan yang dicari, supaya bidangnya juga sangat penting, terutama sekali masa ketika ini. Alright, kerana pharmaceutical company ni bukannya sebarang orang boleh mengetuainya. Dan saya harap tuan-tuan dan puan-puan yang mengikuti program ini, terutama sekali generasi muda, akan mengambil iktibar daripada pengalaman Cik Shahnas. Sekianlah saja. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh. Bye bye Shahnas. Thank you.
Bye Umi. Thank you. Assalamualaikum.
Bye. Salam.